Hello everyone, welcome back to Newcastle Fans TV. It's Friday night football as Crystal Palace take on Newcastle United. Yes, it's Crystal Palace versus Newcastle Friday night under the lights on Amazon. The links will be in the description if you want to download Amazon for Crystal Palace versus Newcastle. It's going to be the game of the weekend. I'm here with Sam Milner. It's not Agreement and Milner show, but if you want to check that out, the link in the description. How exciting do you think this game is going to be?
I hate Friday night games, and I hate going to Crystal Palace, especially recently, because they have been the most dire, wearisome games for all to see. I mean, Wilfried Zaha not playing is a massive bonus, so we've got half a chance now. This is a big game for Steve Bruce, because after the previous two games, my word, he needs a reaction and he needs a performance. So I wouldn't say I'm excited for the game. I don't think it's one for the casual fan.
We'll touch about Newcastle very, very shortly, but we'll mention Crystal Palace now. You've touched on already about Wilfried Zaha not being involved. He is Crystal Palace's main man. He is Crystal Palace, some would say. Missed the 1-0 defeat to Burnley on Monday night, which was a big result for Burnley. Roy Hodgson's side, it's again very similar to Newcastle, not very pretty to watch. But Roy Hodgson has managed to keep Crystal Palace above water quite comfortably ever since he came a few years ago. Who are the biggest threats without Wilfried Zaha?
I mean, you'd look at the former Newcastle man Andros Townsend cutting him from the right, wouldn't you? So Jamal Lewis is going to have his hands full with Townsend, you would think. Thing is, as well, you never really know what you're going to get with Palace. They've had some cracking results so far this season, and they've had some real stinkers as well. They battered Leeds at home, and they got a win at Old Trafford as well. But as I say, they've been on the receiving end of some tonkings as well. But yeah, Townsend's a big threat for me. Cutting him from the right hand side, he's a really good player. Such a shame we only had him for 6 months. Their forward line isn't really much to be worried about, I would think. So I would look at, again, our weakness is defending from set pieces. So I would be looking at their centre backs, and fingers crossed we can actually defend a hell of a lot better than what we have been doing.
Of course, and you touched about the defence as well. Patrick Van Aanholt, former Newcastle loanee, scored the winner last year. I was there with Lee. It was a tough afternoon to say the least, but I think it arguably gave us one of the best player ratings ever, myself 40 and own at the time. It was memorable to say the least. But again, I think Palace are very up and down, Sam. They've lost to Everton, they've lost to Southampton at home, but as you've mentioned, they've won against Leeds recently at Selhurst Park. Eze, young lad from Queen's Park Rangers, he seems a hell of a talent. Have we got to keep him quiet?
Yeah, still finding his way in the Premier League, isn't he? But yeah, one hell of a talent. I remember Lee asking Les Ferdinand about Eze's future when we had Celez on the channel during lockdown 1. He said at the time he wasn't going to let him go cheap, and they didn't. Buckets of potential, buckets of ability. Can he put it all together and turn into a quality Premier League player? I would think so in time, but I would be hoping that we can keep him relatively quiet.
Before you go and hammer Steve Bruce, how should he approach this game of football, regardless if there's loads of pressure, which there arguably is, of course there is, but how should he approach this game against a team, let's be honest, not in a great deal of confidence?
Well, it depends what you actually want to know, what I would do or what I think Steve Bruce will do.
What will Steve Bruce do?
I think he'll change. I think he'll keep the formation the same, and he'll change a couple of personnel here and there. I mean, we can hope that Callum Wilson's fit, because that's crucial. Joe Linton was by no means the worst player on the pitch against Chelsea, but Wilson makes all the difference for having that focal point. I wouldn't be totally against Joe Linton starting on the left behind Wilson, but like I keep banging on, I would go 4-2-3-1, especially with no Zaha in the team as well. He makes that team tick. I think they're there to be got at, Palace. Similar to when we played Everton. Everton were there to be got at because they were missing players. That he does tweak the system slightly because it looks a mess.
Should Newcastle go for it, Sam?
It's not like home advantage doesn't really mean much anymore whilst there's no crowds in.
There's been more away wins in the Premier League than home wins this season.
Yeah. I mean, you line up our two teams, you'd on paper you'd fancy us. You would fancy us. That squad's clearly low on confidence. We saw that against Chelsea. There was players looking extremely pissed off. Cher, Almiron, ASM, they weren't looking themselves, were they? Lascelles came off injured. Will he be fit? Will Fraser be fit? I hope to God Fraser is fit. I mean, I doubt very much he will be, but we need to see him in the black and white shirt properly, and let's see what he's all about, because the glimpses we've had so far have been mightily impressive.
Completely agree with the Ryan Fraser. I don't expect Lascelles or Fraser to be involved. Sam, does anyone deserve to be dropped? I'm looking at the likes of Alan Saint-Maximin, for example. Hasn't really pulled up any trees in signing a new 6-year bumper deal. Alan Shearer had a bit of a go on the match today. The defence, I don't even know what our best defence is, to be brutally honest with you. What changes would you make, and who would you put in the starting 11 on Friday evening?
So let's assume that Bruce will stick with the same formation that clearly doesn't work. I would. Well, your defence kind of picks itself. If Lascelles is injured, you'll have Clark, Fernandez, and Cher as the back three. It wouldn't surprise me to see Manquillo come back out of the team, and Murphy go back there with Almiron coming back in. I think he'll persevere with ASM just because you have to. He's not playing well. He's being marked out of the games, and he's cutting a really frustrated figure. And he's as Shearer alluded to, that performances have dipped since he signed the new contract. It'd be interesting to see how he goes, because there's a lot of players in that team that need a performance. Hayden should keep his place. Shelvey, if he's fit, does he come back in?
Wasn't Sean Longstaff arguably the best outfield player for Newcastle?
Yeah, absolutely. But you could make a case for pushing Sean up in the 10 and going that way. That'd probably be a bold call from Bruce, so I can't see that happening. But Shelvey fit. I mean, if Rich is fit as well, do you take Lewis out of the team for a game? Bruce isn't one to make wholesale changes, is he? So I don't think you'll see too much change. I think probably you'll just see maybe Almiron start instead of Manquillo, with Murphy dropping back, and obviously Clark from the start instead of Lascelles, probably.
Score prediction time. I'll be amazed if this has the most goals this weekend, but how optimistic are you feeling, Mr. Milner?
0-0. I hope I'm pleasantly surprised, and there are a couple of tweaks in the formation and personnel that we can really set about this Palace team, which should be there for the taking. But I've just got a feeling he'll keep with the same depressing formation, and I can see it being a snooze fest. I know Palace fans aren't overly optimistic about this game either, and they're not. The popcorn's not really at the ready, so hopefully we can just all stay awake by 10 p.m.
Oh, so because that's when scoring the players starts and the match reaction.
Hang on, what's your prediction, Mr. Optimistic? What are you going for? 4-0?
I'll go 2-1 away win. I'll stick my neck out. But
I'd love that.
Yeah, I'll stick my neck out and say 2-1 win. I think Newcastle have got a good chance if Callum Wilson starts. If he doesn't start, I agree with you, Sam. It'll be 0-0. I just don't see where Newcastle get goals from. They can hardly get shots on target in the last few games, never mind goals. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But that's my prediction. If anybody's interested, shall we say. But busy week on Newcastle Fans TV. Of course, we've got all things Crystal Palace on Friday evening. And then there's going to be all sorts, because obviously the fixtures just keep on rolling. We've got likes of Villa, Fulham, Leeds, West Bromwich Albion coming up before the festive fixtures commence. But yeah, Friday evening, Amazon. Make sure you download Amazon for Crystal Palace versus Newcastle. My thanks again to Sam Milner, and we'll see you on Friday night.